with the big board, our team of insiders is standing by live to weigh in on today's top stories. Dan Abrams here with us for the first one. It deals with Fox News and Greta Van Susteren. We remember she left the network earlier this month, and now she's taken on her former bosses, saying they failed to check Roger Ailes, the sexual harassment allegations. And Dan, this is something of a turnabout for Greta. She'd been defending Ailes.
That's right. So she'd been defending Ailes, but most importantly, and people aren't talking about this, she also went after Gretchen Carlson in multiple interviews.
They sued Ailes.
Yeah, calling her a disgruntled employee, saying that these allegations were wrong. So for Greta to now come forward and say, you know what, I didn't mean to defend him, I regret it, et cetera, that's only a part of it. Well, what about the part where you were attacking Gretchen Carlson? I think a more sort of a full and complete apology is really needed to turn the tides here.
And this is also what she said in her Facebook post, Greta. She said, I regret that Roger Ailes was not supervised by those in a public corporation who had the duty to supervise him. Will these comments affect ongoing litigation?
Well, look, I think she may end up having litigation, but that feels like a cop-out. Look, Greta is a friend of mine. I have enormous respect for Greta.
I do too.
But the bottom line is to suggest that she didn't know that Roger Ailes had almost complete autonomy at Fox News feels like a cop-out. I mean, everyone knew that Roger Ailes had almost complete autonomy to do what he wanted there. And she made comment after comment after comment supporting him, not just saying something like, you know what, I worked with him, he was always professional, I never saw anything like that. She went much further than that in her comments, so it's a little bit tough for her to have it both ways. And if she does end up in litigation with Fox, a lot of these old statements are going to come back to haunt her.
Isn't her husband a lawyer?
He is a very prominent lawyer. Right. And look, and I think that he's probably leading the charge here on the legal front.
We'll see what happens. Thanks, Dan. Now to that concerning new report about parents' medical mistakes. The American Academy of Pediatrics putting 2,100 parents to the test, finding more than 80% of them made at least one dosing error when measuring liquid medication intended for children. Dr. Jennifer Ashton is going to talk about this. And Jen, when you see these numbers, 68%, the researchers discovered that 68% of the time the errors would have led to an overdose. This is such startling information, Jen.
Absolutely, Robin. And here's the actual study. It occurred in the Premier Journal of Pediatrics. And some context here, we've heard that there have been issues with dosing, particularly liquid medications for kids, because they come mostly in that liquid form. And so this study really sought to further define the labeling and the dosing, and to some extent health literacy. Do we need labels in Spanish? Do parents really understand decimal points and milliliters? That can be hard to understand. And the results, as you mentioned, almost 85% made one or more errors, 68% made overdosing errors. This is a wake-up call. We have to do better. This could literally be a life or death issue.
Wow, it really is a wake-up call, Jen. So what can parents do to make sure they get it right?
So I think the first thing, ask your pediatrician, ask the pharmacist, make sure you understand what the correct dose for your child is, and ask to see it. Ask them to show you, because that is key. The visual on those syringes is important. And then account for that spitting up. Kids often will spit up the medication, and keep a med record. That's what we do in the hospital. It can be really helpful.
Okay, Jen, thanks very much. And we're going to move on now to a big week for Uber. It looks like they're set to debut self-driving cars in Pittsburgh. This will be the first time the technology has been available to the general public. Becky Worley is here with more on that. And Becky, the rollout raising a lot of questions. A lot of people saying it's way too soon.
The robots are coming. Yeah, the idea of autonomous driving freaking people out a little bit. But let's break this down. 3 weeks ago, George, Uber announcing self-driving cars would be coming to Pittsburgh. Now, the Times reporting the rollout's imminent any day now. But the idea of 100 autonomous vehicles cruising the streets of Steel City, residents a little worried. Why? No public awareness campaigns, no route notifications to fire and rescue services. And the mayor, Bill Peduto, saying, yeah, and his direct quote, you can either put up red tape or roll out the red carpet. But I think it's worth hitting the brakes on this. This is not 100 robotic cars roaming Pittsburgh. Every car will have a driver in it, ready to take over as needed. Assistive technology, not autonomous.
Okay, but still hands up, everybody. Who thinks this is a good idea?
Not for me.
I don't see.
I mean, look, I've had
got to, Becky, because you're a tech person.
I've had some good Uber drivers, but I'll tell you that for some of them, I'm perfectly happy to have no driver at all.
And I'm too much of a control freak. There is no way.
I would get behind it.
Yeah, most of them have been good, but
Okay.
Your rating just went down.
yeah, exactly, yeah.
Thanks to all of our insiders.